Buckle your seatbelt and get ready for the podcast that will take you on a special journey designed to elevate and empower your cross-cultural appreciation for communities around the world. Hello, I'm Carole Copeland Thomas. I'm your host of Conversations with Carole, the weekly show that connects culture with collaboration and community. Welcome aboard. I have so much to say, and I have so many questions. We're not going to have enough time for all the questions that I want to ask this wonderful guest who I met just a brief 2 weeks ago. And now I am enthralled by her talent and her loveliness and just her intentionality. We want to share that with you in the book that she has recently written that I think will be appropriate for any audience, whether you are in the U.S., the UK, Jamaica, Guyana, wherever you happen to be, India. This is the kind of book that will be very pragmatic for you, for your life, and for your business. And I'm talking to Nicola Millington. Hello, Nicola. How are you?
Oh, I'm well, thank you, Carol. Should I say good morning your end, good afternoon my end?
That whatever works.
I hear you. But it was a real pleasure meeting you and your family a couple of weeks ago while you were here for the conference, and an amazing talk you did. I was enthralled. So thank you so much for that.
And I want to thank you very much for your hospitality. I met you the Monday that we arrived in London. You were our escort for my daughter and granddaughters. We had a chance to chat, learned about your book, met Professor Les Henry at a wonderful bookstore there, and I had some very good iced tea there as well while I was talking with you and talking with Professor Les. And then you
Mhm.
escorted us to The Devil Wears Prada. Wow, that was
Yes,
such a great play, musical play with Vanessa Williams, who's obviously here from the States. A huge crowd. It was
yeah.
Broadway in London.
It certainly is. Yeah, we don't do things by halves. We don't do things by halves here,
No,
certainly.
that's true.
And it was a
All the
real
way.
pleasure to be there, to be with you and your family. It really was. Thank
I
you.
certainly enjoyed it. Thank you. And then you had to go and do probably 50 or 60 new things or other things that tied up loose ends as the director of PR for the UK Black Business Entrepreneurs Conference that we were a part of. And I had a chance to speak at with Dr. Carlton Brown on that Wednesday in London. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about your background, your PR background, and how that led to the wonderful work that you're doing and the events that you are managing in the UK.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because I've been in PR, public relations for 25 years, but definitely been working in regards to my ethos of life a
Mhm.
lot longer than that. And so the person that you see in front of you today, Carol, is always a work in progress, right? It's always a journey to get to this point. And my journey started in the UK where I was born, but I was fortunate enough to be able to go and travel to Guyana, South America, where my family are from. And I lived there for 5 years, went to school, did the equivalent of the 11 plus or high school transition exams, got into a decent school over there, stayed there for a few more years, and then returned back to the UK to finish off my education. But fundamentally, a lot of who I am was founded in Guyana during those 5 years, those formative years, where I learned about community, I learned about family, I learned about the ethos of it takes a village to raise a child. And it's that ethos I brought back to the UK when I started to think about what I wanted to do for my own career. And during my early stage of working, I worked in a film company. My degrees in film and business. During my early stages of working, I recognized that actually a lot of the things that I do in regards to communication to convince people that I am a whole human being, I deserve to be seen as equally as anybody else, is actually an industry in its own right. It's called the media industry, it's called the press, it's called
Mhm.
what we're doing right now. And I recognize that in that space itself, there was a bias. And I wanted to know how I can contribute to readdressing that bias. So it's okay for me to be in a boardroom with three of my peers and we're talking about writing a press release and getting something out, but where are they positioning it? How are they positioning it? And what are the stories they're telling and who they're pushing forward? And it was with that intentionality I knew that I could contribute effectively to that space as a storyteller, as someone that looked at journalism as well. I knew I could contribute there. So one day I literally just woke up and said, yeah, I'm ready to start my own agency. And so 25 years ago, I started my own agency to basically, initially it was just about marketing communications, but now it's focused primarily on what I call legacy businesses. Businesses that either come from families that want to continue to grow and hand over from generation to generation, or businesses that have the intentionality of generational growth and wealth. And it's that premise that means that I work with organizations like the Black Business Entrepreneurs Conference. Other organizations I work with, some of them people will know, would be like the Notting Hill Carnival as well. I work on internal comms on that, one of the biggest carnivals in Europe. And then I
I
work with,
know about that carnival because when I was in London, my daughter and granddaughters and I went on a hop on, hop off bus, and they specified the
Notting
Nottingham,
Hill.
Notting
Notting.
Hill Carnival and its origins. And obviously, there were some racial issues that had taken place, and this was a positive outcome of what had happened during that time period. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little familiar with that.
You see, if I had more, if we had more time, I definitely would take you down around the area where that is. So actually, right now we're prepping for that as well. I'm in the midst of, so I deal with the internal comms with that, and that again, you see the dynamics of what it is to work with stakeholders and the internal communications for such a large scale event, and what the press wants to put out over the reality of what the carnival is really about. Because the carnival is a magnificent bringing together of cultures and people to
Mhm.
celebrate the origins of African and Caribbean ancestry, but yet still the focus will always be on the negative points of it. And so my job is really how we're positioning those messaging as much as possible, always pushing back and saying this can't go out, this is how we should communicate, and speaking to each other with a sense of love in there. So that's the premise of a lot of the work that I focus on, what I do, and how I got to here today.
Wow. Well, you are born to do this work. That's obvious. Even though you look like you're about 21 years old, and I know you're not because you have children in their 20s, but you look
Exactly.
like those of you who are just listening to the podcast, Nicola looks like she's about 30 years old. She's not.
Thank you.
Those of you who are watching it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Let's shift gears because I want to talk about this wonderful book. Now, let me set the stage because you're not going to really understand this. I met Nicola on Monday, June 23rd, or the
Mhm.
23rd of June, if you do it from a UK perspective. And we were having this conversation with Professor Les Henry, who was one of my speakers at a previous US UK event. And then she said, oh, I want to give you something. She presents me with this beautiful box. Tiffany color box. That's important. It looks like Tiffany color. And then you open the box, and there's blue tissue paper, and you unwrap first a card that says, please read me first. So then I had to read the card first, which was an acknowledgement and a thank you for purchasing or getting this book. And then you get this wonderful pocket-sized book called Swipe Workbook, Mastering the Art of Handling Trolls and Protecting Your Peace. So we're talking about a really important topic that anybody, if you're in the world, you are impacted by trolls. So she's talking about this, and then you thumb through it, and you got 9 different cases, oodles of information. What a powerhouse of a book. First of all, tell us about the origin of the name Swipe quickly. I know we talked about it earlier, but I want
Yeah.
my listeners and my watchers to understand that.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a friend. I'd written the book and the 9 case studies, and I really wanted to have something that was going to be accessible to people to understand in a digital age. So I wrote down the key points, which was about protection, financial understanding, mental well-being, and also about accessibility and being safe online. And I used DeepSeek, ChatGPT, whichever one you want to choose to connect with this conversation, to input that information. I said, I want something that really defines this space of how are people protected online and kept safe economically, financially and economically, mentally and physically. And Swipe came up. And it was so apt because when you think of swiping left and right, when you're looking at the dating apps, etc., I just knew it would cut through to people understanding what the book was about. It was about leveraging a lifestyle online safely. And
Hmm.
how do we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think about anybody who has a smartphone, you're always
Yes.
using your finger, your index finger, to swipe either left or right. So the connection is very apropos there. Your family comes from Guyana. You grew up between Guyana and the UK. You incorporate that with a lot of your idioms and your comments, your grandmother's advice to you from Guyana. So that's what makes this book so special, is that it's not just a technical book that can help you and keep you safe, but you see parts of Nicola and her cultural values that have been embedded in the book, which is really quite great. Talk to us about the origin of the word trolls. I found that very interesting. You look at it from a fishing point of view and then from a Scandinavian perspective, and
Yeah.
obviously that's the main point of this book. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So actually the first point, just before the origins of the Scandinavian and the fishing point of view. So the fishing is obviously when you're trolling for fish, what you grab and what you leave behind, the analogy of that. But actually the original of that came from the story of Three Billy Goats Gruff, where I looked at the troll that was on the bridge and the
Right.
different ages, the small, the mother, and the grown adult, how they had to navigate this rickety bridge, if you want, to get to the other side. And the troll that was there in the midst of it, trying to upend or prevent the trolls, sorry, the goats from crossing over.
Uh-huh.
And that was really the original premise of where I was beginning to say, actually, we need different strategies depending on where you are in the space of online navigation. So, for instance, one of the things I really wanted to also emphasize was the fact that when you're a parent navigating the space of trolling for your children, because we're at different age, technical age areas, there is a way that we have to protect ourselves, whether it be financially, insurance, covering ourselves that way, whether it be mentally, surrounding ourselves with social psychologists and psychotherapists to unpack this information. But also from that as well, financially, making sure that you've got the resources and space that you are able to attack and navigate the space more appropriately. So that was the origination of it. So when it came to like the Scandinavian, it was interesting for me as well to find out those origins, because what I've found is the transition of these words that we use today differ very differ very greatly from what we found when we originally had them, like they were originally sourced. So for me, it was about giving people a context, a anchor, if you want. So when we're
Mhm.
navigating this space, we're navigating it with a sense of power of understanding rather than thinking that it's a modern day term that's just come about. I think we need to anchor our information sometimes more appropriately. That's where data comes into play as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I mean, you've adapted. Troll is from a Scandinavian point of view negative. I mean that
Yeah.
you think about that object, that person or whatever the image happens to be, living under a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So there are negative connotations there, which are applicable to trolls today, which are negative, that can be AI driven or bot driven, or just a very, very menacing person who is just there to make negative comments. I know here in the US that I'm sure that there are people who are paid to be trolls. They're paid by political parties to give opinions when articles are written online. I subscribe to the Boston Globe and the New York Times, and when I think about the Boston Globe, I will read articles. Some of them are culturally focused, and I know when I read the comments that there are going to be negative comments there written by trolls to upend whatever the story happens to be. And frequently, what I will do, I'm going to look, I'm going to read through your book again because I try to upend the troll to make positive comments to give more accuracy and truth to what the trolls are writing about. But I think the important thing, and I want to go into one or two of your cases, the important point that you make, Nicola, is the fact that these trolls have influence and that they become influencers. And if you're not careful, if you're a business or you're a restaurant and a troll comes on and said, that was the worst minestrone soup that I've ever had. I don't know why they call themselves an XYZ restaurant. And their writing and their words, which are very powerful, can literally change whether a person goes to that restaurant or doesn't. In my case, I went to three restaurants in London, one of them based on comments that were made online about how good they were, how good they weren't. They ended up being a fabulous restaurant. We went there twice. So these trolls have influence over what people do. Can you talk to us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually at the heart of the book,
Yeah.
and this is and truthfully, and I'm really glad that you raised this, Carole, because honestly, the book is written so that we can get a sense of control back of our own agencies with these conversations. And so there are people and individuals and institutions that are designed specifically to, like you said, upend and to derail a certain specific agenda, whatever that may be.
Hmm.
It could be very micro, and I use the word micro loosely. It could be micro as in an individual person, i.e., online bullying for a child, a school child, whatever, or individual, or it could be macro in regards to governments, institutions, businesses. It can cover the whole spectrum. And the book is designed actually to regain that. So, one of the things I really would love to address with that specific point about understanding that trolls are there to derail a situation is actually the book is designed to recognize actually at what stage are they really intersecting with you. So are they coming to derail you? Are they coming to take your time and attention?
Hmm.
They can be very, very different directions of how you deal with that situation. Sometimes it can be an individual ego boost. So it can be a person that's navigating that trolling because they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be the topic of conversation.
Hmm.
Is that the angle they're coming from? The job is actually to take a step back as the observer, as the recipient. Take a step back and observe it for a second. Because one of the things that happens is that we react too quickly when it comes to trolling. So it's to observe it and take a step back. Once you're able to take a step back, you can decide on what is the best course of action for you as an individual. So for me, when I always take a step back, sometimes, just sometimes, I recognize that some of these trollings are not worth my time. And you have
Hmm.
to. So let's take your minestrone soup as an example. You will have someone that will come along and they will say something along the lines of, that color of lipstick doesn't work for me. Let's just say that. What I've come to find out is that actually it's not that they don't like the lipstick, or no, they don't like the lipstick, or whatever the case may be. It's not that they don't like the lipstick, it's actually because what they picked at the time was just a momentary bad purchase, just for that. So
Hmm.
they put it online to say they don't like the lipstick. If your job as a business owner is to say, actually, I don't want that comment up there, that can be one way of approaching it.
Hmm.
But another way that could be quite beneficial to you is saying, so why did you pick that color listing, or what color did you pick? So you can engage with them sometimes. It depends, right? You
Hmm.
make that strategic move. What's the outcome? What are they trying to achieve? And what we found out is for this specific situation is they just wanted attention. So why did you pick that color? They said, I picked it because I was in a rush. What then happens when you have that space of conversation? Someone else can come in and say something along the lines of, well, I picked red. Maybe you want to try another color. That kind of nullifies the angst, if you want, or the trauma of that troll attacking because they have made a wrong choice. But then sometimes it can be someone that's quite spiteful, that's just saying, I don't like lipstick. And then they will try to engage. And you have different strategies for that. It just depends. But the book is there to say, when you are being trolled, sometimes what you need to do is take a pause back and give you tools to say which strategy is going to be the best one for me to work with in this particular specific situation.
Mm. And that leads us into case two. I'm just going to read just the beginning of it
Yeah.
as I use the example of the minestrone soup. This is
Mm.
the scenario is a small business owner posted an image showcasing their product. A troll commented on Google reviews, "This is an overpriced rubbish. You're scamming people." When the comment was challenged, the troll subsequently shared the same comment on other online platforms. Walk us through the analysis of that and the possible responses, Nicola.
Yeah, so I'll continue reading there. Unlike
Yes.
constructive, well-intended criticism, baseless criticisms are often impolite and designed to undermine confidence. So highlight that. So it's about a personal confidence, mental space, and elicit an emotional response. However, they tend to lack substance and credibility.
Mhm.
So it's very important to understand what we said before earlier on. Why is it that they are approaching you exactly? So what they want to do is tap the individual more likely than not. They want to demoralize you. So it's likely to be something like this is likely to be a business competitor.
Mm. Mm.
It's likely to be a business. So when you step back and you observe, you're like, okay, why would someone put that up there? What is their reasoning? And you realize the analysis, you're like, okay, this is likely to be a competitor. So then your job then is to look at some of the strategies. So assess the criticism, be one, determine if the comment has any constructive feedback that could be used to improve your brand, product, or service. If not, acknowledge it for what it is an attempt to provoke you. That it's an attempt to provoke you,
Mhm.
right? So therefore, for yourself, you acknowledge that it's an attempt to provoke you. So how you respond therefore thereafter will change dramatically. It could be something like, "I'm sorry that you felt this way. Um, buy another product next time or go somewhere else." It can be something as simple as that, right?
Mhm.
Respond or ignore. If you choose to respond, keep it professional and objective. For example, thank you for your feedback. We believe that our products are of high value quality and are always open to constructive suggestions. If the comment is blatant, sorry, suggestions. If the comment is blatant trolling, it's okay to simply ignore and delete. But
Mhm.
what happens usually in those stages, which I've experienced with other businesses, is when they do see that comment, 9 times out of 10, Carole, someone else will jump in to validate your positioning.
Mm.
A
Mhm.
customer will jump in to validate, oh, I didn't experience it like that. Or I've
Right.
been there 3 times. Or like you, I read this comment, but that's not been my experience. Because your experience is going to be different from that troll who's there,
Mhm.
as we said, to bring down your confidence, which we're now identifying is likely to be a competitor.
Mm. That you make such a great point. I'm just sitting up here thinking about the times that I do respond to trolls on with articles that are published in the Boston Globe, and I will give just based on my own experience, I will give the flip response in defense of the article or whatever the article happens to be. I just did this a couple of days ago. We have a restaurant here. We have just these horrific ICE raids that are taking place in the US
Right.
where they're just picking up people and putting them in detention centers with the whole purpose of deporting them. Well, this one restaurant, which the owner is from Nigeria, and great food. And just some of the comments that were made were so callous, and you could clearly tell these are people who have no idea what they're talking about. They've never been to the restaurant, as I have, as a patron. And so I needed to come in and level set the conversation to say, I am a patron. I will make a point to go back to the restaurant to support this wonderful family and X, Y, and Z. So you're correct. it can either be trolls can be competitors, you're absolutely right about that, or people who have no knowledge, they're following a political bent or maybe whatever their personal beliefs happen to be, which are counter to what is taking place in this case. You also make a great point with this case too. You say silence can be your greatest gift. Why is silence such a powerful tool?
Oh, sometimes, I mean, we do know, I don't know if you've been in relationships where someone is just constantly at you trying to demand your attention, your time, and then sometimes you just give it back and you just say, okay. And I'd share a very brief story which actually speaks to this point, and it may sound rude, but actually it saves your life. I was having a conversation with someone very close to me, and we were discussing, debating a point, and it was getting very heated. The conversation was getting heated, and I was literally driving and with them, and I they asked the question, and I just said, "Yeah, that's fine." And they said, "Oh, but you don't agree, do you?" And I said, "No, I don't agree." And they said, "Well, why did you say yes, it's fine?" I said, "Well, because I've decided that this conversation is not worth my time. Where is it taking me arguing?" And they're like, "That's a bit rude." I'm like, "Well, you want me to be agreeing with what you're saying, and I don't, and you know I don't. So therefore, we're at this bypass. So I will just be silent and just leave it where it is." And the fury that comes with that kind of energy of the silence is sometimes far more intense, if
Yes.
you want, intense,
Mhm.
than responding back and forth. But here's the key, Carole. I like I like looking youthful. I like a peaceful life. I like being calm. I like my blood pressure to be okay. These things are very important to me,
Right.
and that's what I prioritize. And so, therefore, is it worth my time standing up, typing away responses? Let's call it 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Where actually, in that same time, I could be earning £50, £100, £200. I can be using the time more effectively and more productively.
Mhm.
I choose to use my time far more productively. So that's why silence can be a gift.
Yeah, this is also dealing with difficult people. There have been workshops dealing with that, and so typically you'll find if there's a real troll. I'm not talking about these AI bot trolls,
Yeah, yeah,
but if there's a real troll, some of these individuals are just they're unhappy with themselves.
yes,
They have a combative spirit to them, where they have to exert their attention from a combative perspective, where they want to counter what's being said or what's being presented. And that's their way of exerting their influence and their power, never really realizing how negative it's coming across and how miserable they are appearing as a person who just doesn't like happy stuff.
yeah. I think the book is definitely there to really recapture our own authority and our own agency in this space. And it's interesting what you just quickly said about bots as well. I think being clear about there is a different range of intentionality
Hmm.
behind every attack that you will receive online and offline.
Right.
And taking that step back, and I'll repeat this a few times, is so important because the bots look as human as anybody else until you take a step back to say, oh, actually, the way they've spelt that is incorrectly, or the
Hmm.
way they've you can there are clues sometimes, but sometimes we get caught up emotionally by the action and we
Right.
need to take a step back. If there's nothing else, definitely take a pause.
And that is your most important point in terms of remedies in your book. Take a step back. We become reptilian. We want to respond and attack back. And oftentimes when you do that, that's when you play into the hands of the troll because they're ready with their next response. They want a fight online, and that'll be just totally non-productive from a business point of view, from a relationship point of view, etc. I want
Yeah.
to move on to case six. I want to talk about that.
Oh yes.
And it says in 2025, I shared a TikTok post about a cowrie shells, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice, wore at the presidential inauguration. In the post, I explained their cultural and social significance, including their use in African cultures to ward off evil spirits and negative forces. Among the most among the many comments, one that stood out for its sarcasm. Um, is it ick? They don't
It's
know.
I don't know. I
Oh,
don't
okay,
know.
oh, okay. You're
IDK.
teaching me.
Yeah, that's
IDK, thank
okay.
you. IDK.
I don't know.
They don't look like cowrie shells to me. Rather than engaging in a back and forth or reacting emotionally, I replied, well, call them seashells if it gives you peace. I love that. My response was direct, sincere, and neutralized the sarcastic tone of the comment. The simplicity of this approach resonated with many other social media users who celebrate how I handled the situation. Talk to us about that one. And then you
Oh,
just told me about IDK. Thank you.
you're welcome. Well, actually, do you want to know? Case study 6 is actually the first case study I wrote.
Oh,
Yeah, it was the
wow.
first case study I wrote,
Mm,
because it was a real life, and all the case studies, in one way or the other, it's been personal to me, as you
sure.
mentioned earlier on, and that one was definitely the trigger. And what it then triggered was a realization that actually I've got a knack to keep my peace in this digital space. And
Yes.
I then reflected on the number of people that I've spoken to, the number of clients that have called me up in the middle of the night, Carole, crying and breaking down because a negative comment or something has gone up on social media about their business.
Hmm.
A number of CEOs and C-suite directors that I've had toe-to-toe debates with in regards to comments that shouldn't come down on social media in those spaces.
Hmm.
And the number of people that I have encountered that just don't know how to protect their children online, especially young content creators.
Right.
It made me reflect on all of those. And I literally, and this, there's a picture on the Instagram where I'm sitting down on the floor with all the boxes around me. I literally sat down in that specific space, and it came rushing back to me. And I thought about how I felt in that moment with Katanji Jackson, the TikTok post, and it got over 300,000 likes and shares, by the way.
Wow. Wow.
So I literally sat down and I thought how I felt in that space, and I was at total peace, and I realized that I've got a knack for dealing with this situation. To me, it feels like very regular. For me, when I'm speaking to my clients, I say, all right, take a breath. We've got this. Give me access to your social. I'll handle it for you. And I just do it for them. And then we do it for, I've done it. I've been up with Notting Hill Carnival. We've done the same thing. The
Hmm.
massive millions of people on the carnival footprint. And I'm up dealing with that same situation. So for me, it was a realization that I had a tool, that God-given tool that I needed to then now create in this space, in the book, to then be able to help other people to say, sometimes these are different strategies that are coming to you via the trolling. And your job is to look at these different scenarios and see which one suits you best to become armed up and become um, educated and versed. That's the word I'm looking for, versed in how you can handle the various situations. So
Right.
that was the first case study. So I would
Hmm.
like to thank Katanji. Thank you very much.
Or wearing those cowrie shells, yeah. Or
And they
call
looked
them
at me.
seashells if you want to call them seashells. That boy, with just that kind of response, totally neutralizes a troll, a person.
Yes,
And I think what the larger component of this is understanding how there are times when you need to own the story.
yes,
When something negative happens, and negative stuff happens all the time to people, to organizations, to brands, to restaurants, hotels, whatever, and when you come in front and you own the story, I mean, you're a PR expert, so you know this, then you can take control of that story and sort of neutralize or begin to decrease the negative energy and the negative forces that are out there. I love the
yes,
fact that you make a point that with some of these comments and these trolls, they're competitors who don't want you to succeed and they want their negativity to contribute to your downfall,
yeah.
oftentimes not realizing that it could have a negative effect on their own business
Of course.
opportunities too.
Yeah. We do know about reciprocity, and what you put out there will come back to you tenfold, in the
That's
words of
right.
See the in color purple.
So true. Again, we're talking to Nicola Millington and her wonderful swipe workbook that can be had. The applications are endless in terms of how this can be very beneficial for any person, whether you're online, whether you're dealing with this on a face-to-face perspective. Some of the final, you have a couple of wonderful wisdom pages in the back. One of them, final swipe wisdom. Trolls come in all shapes and sizes, but their response doesn't have to. Remember the swipe method, and this is a methodology that you have. You have S for stop and breathe, W for weigh in on whether it's worth it. I think that's really important, and that's gotten me through life, whether I'm going to respond to something, and I always ask myself, is this worth it? Am I going to put energy and effort in this
Yeah.
number? And then the next one, I for investigate the intent, P for protect your peace, and E, educate or exit. Aha. Talk to us about why this approach is important online and certainly offline, Nicola.
Yeah, because we're living in an age where speed seems to dictate how we navigate a lot of our environment. And like I mentioned at the very, very beginning, Carole, which is so important, I hope I'm communicating it effectively. I was raised in Guyana for 5 years. And regardless of whether you're the president of the country or the person that's on the street, you have a real granular understanding of foundations of who we are as people. And everything in the book is centralizing humanity at the center. So everything we said here, and I can guarantee this is going to happen to me, Carole. You heard it here first. Someone's going to look at this book and say, that's common sense. We do this anyway. We do this in life anyway. Why do I need the book? But
Mm,
yet still, the digital space and other technological advancements always push us out a little bit of the foundations of who we are as people, of our humanity. So, of course, it is common sense. It's always been common sense to, before you answer, stop, take a minute, take a breath. It's always been common sense.
yeah.
It's always been common sense that actually, before you speak, before you say that this is fact, you investigate it. It's always been common sense that
Mhm.
actually not all arguments are for you to argue. These have
Right.
always been common sense things. And so, therefore, my job is just to realign in the digital space those very common sense points. But I want to just clarify one thing at the end, Carole. When we look at the generational gap, you and I, and maybe your daughter, will have a sense of what we can anchor ourselves through an analog age.
Mhm.
I speak about fax machines in the
Yeah,
book.
right. A lot. You mentioned that a lot in your book.
Fax machines in the book. We got rotary telephones, or
Yes.
even if right,
Or even the black book you talk about too. Yeah.
even we've got the what in London we had something like the Yellow Pages, which is like a
Yes.
directory. We had the Encyclopedia
Yes.
Britannica. We
Right.
had things that we can anchor. So if the lights go out, we have tools that we know how to light a candle. We
Mm-hmm.
know how to pick up a torch. Follow me. If you're looking at the modern age, they have no anchor in the same
Mm,
way.
that's powerful.
Therefore, when the digital spaces attack them in a specific way, a lot of our is common sense. It's because of our historical experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We are not passing on that information generationally. So most kids don't even know what cash looks like.
Mm. Hmm.
Physical cash.
Wow. Right.
So therefore, these swipe tactics are there for us to remember to connect with the younger generation, but also to teach the younger generation to investigate what happened that made us anchor ourselves in a space that we are able to cope more efficiently online.
Hmm.
Because let's not make a mistake, 1 in 3 children are suffering from depression,
Yes.
right? That's gone up in line with digital access. Loneliness in a most connected world, loneliness is on the increase at dramatic.
Hmm.
And this is not fact. This is not me saying. This is
No,
Reuters. This is
it's
research.
truth,
It's stats,
truthfulness. Yes.
right? Loneliness is on the increase. Connections between generations are falling apart at dramatic rates. So
Hmm.
parents are not being able to connect with their children in the same way. And those things need to be rectified in one way or the other. That's why this book exists, so that we can start to bridge those gaps. Bridge those gaps.
Greatly impacted by COVID and what COVID did
Yes.
to young people from an educational point of view. There's data now that's being collected in terms of the loneliness, the depression that has hit lots of
Anxiety.
young people, and their reintegration into face-to-face educational experiences have been significant, particularly when they go on to higher education and
Yeah.
how they're impacted as first-year students, et cetera. So. Ooh, lots of reasons why. Swipe Workbook, Mastering the Art of Handling Trolls and Protecting Your Peace by Nicola Millington is so, so important. The past and young people not understanding the past with what they're dealing with now. And when the lights go out and they can't access their machines or whatever, what do they do? And how can they handle the experiences and the account in the encounters that they have? How can someone purchase this book? Give it to us from a UK perspective or an international perspective, and then those who are in the United States.
Okay, so it's not available in audio. I'll start there so we're clear. It's not available, but it is available digitally and it's available in print. Now, unless you're as wonderful as Carole, uh, who's in the UK, and you will have to purchase them online in one way or the other. Digitally, you can buy it from our website. It's called Marketing with Love Digital, and you just put in swipe and you get the book there. You can also purchase it on Amazon. Now, we are having a problem at the moment shipping to the USA on Amazon. We have tried every which way. I don't know if there is some changes taking place about books, but um, you still can purchase them directly from the website I mentioned, marketingwithlovedigital.co.uk, and
Okay,
we
say
will
that
ship
again slowly for us, and we'll have this
absolutely
information with the show notes too. Yes.
perfect. Marketing with love digital.co.uk.
Marketing with Love Digital dot co
Mhm.
dot uk.
And you just type in the word swipe and it will come straight up for you.
Well, I just have a host of ideas to share with you in terms of
Yes.
how this book can be used and how it can be sold
Thank you.
from a bulk point of view to various organizations, schools, etc. So we'll
That'd be
talk about
wonderful.
that offline because it
Well,
is a very, very, very good book and very practical book. Before
thank
we
you.
end this interview, I have three quick questions to ask you that I ask all of my guests or many of my guests.
I'm
And
ready.
okay. First question is what do we not know about Nicola Millington?
What you don't know, there's so much that you don't know. But I'm going to say that I was going to use Guyana, but we know that already. That I'm a mother of two sons, young men, 25 and 18 as of 2025. Yes.
Great. And again, if you look at Nicola, you think she's 25 and
And
she
the
has a
reason
25-year-old.
and the reason why I say I don't know that because when I was having my children, I never told anyone I was pregnant. That you don't know. People did.
Wow. And number two, what is your, outside of Swipe Workbook, what is your favorite book or movie?
So I can pick both. Is that all right? Quickly.
That's fine, sure.
My favorite author is Terry McMillan.
Uh,
So all of her books,
oh
When It Takes to
my.
Hell, Mama, all of them. I love them all.
I used to
I love
inhale
Little,
her books.
yeah,
Yes.
all of Terry McMillan, all her books. I've got them all on my shelf. I've actually met her once and she got
Ah,
them signed.
mhm.
And then I'm definitely a child of the 90s, 80s, 2000s. So My favorite film is Love Jones.
Oh, Love Jones. Okay. Wow. Terry McMillan, book author, and Love Jones. Yeah. Okay, great. And out of all the places in the world, what's on your bucket list? Where do you want to visit?
I would actually like to visit the East, so like Malaysia. I would like to visit China. I love to, but if I was to say, also from an African point of view, I'd love to visit Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Zimbabwe would be one of my countries, just
Ah,
because of some of the historic of Mugabe, and I just would be interested to see where that all came from.
from Rhodesia to Zimbabwe. Yes. Ah, very, very good. Well, this has been a great interview. I have more questions than I have time, but I hope that this will be an incentive for you to go online and get this book. Again, you can go to marketingwithlovedigital.co.uk for our American audience. That's probably the best place where you can get the book, or for those in the UK and elsewhere, Amazon is your first choice. Wonderful book, Nicola Millington. Thank you so much for being a guest on Conversation with Carole.
Thank you so much, Carol. You've been delightful. Thank you.
Great. Take care now. Thank you for listening to Conversations with Carole. Spread the word and tell friends and colleagues that this podcast is tailor made for them. Make sure you subscribe, and we welcome your comments and reviews on your favorite podcast platform. Visit us at carolecopelandthomas.com and listen to all of the episodes and learn about my speaking services there. Thanks again, and we'll see you back next week for an exciting new show. See you soon.